In this video, I'll be discussing the architecture of life. Have you ever wondered how life is organized? From something so tiny that is invisible to our eyes to something which is as vast as entire planet. Every living system, from humans to forests and from bacteria to ocean, follows a beautiful biological hierarchy. In today's video, we'll explore the architecture of life, fascinating journey from single cell all the way to biosphere. So let's begin. So before we go into the biological hierarchy, so we'll understand the emergent properties, how actually this works. So this means that when small components interact, they create a something entirely new which alone components cannot do. If you see here, think bicycle as an example. A wheel or a pedal cannot be ridden, cannot be used to travel. But when all these components come together and create a fully functional cycle which can be used to be to travel from one place to another. So as we see, the whole is greater than sum of its part. We don't just get more stuff, we get new capabilities, as we see in the cycle. So this will be discussed now in case of biological hierarchy. So first we will see the chemical journey from atoms to organelles. Since these atoms are the basic unit of matter, atoms bound together to form molecules. In the similar way, these molecules come together to create a macromolecule such as DNA, RNA, proteins, and carbohydrates. These macromolecules come together to form organelles which becomes a functional structure inside the cell. These components uh, form a necessary conditions to for an individual to survive and ultimately give rise to a cell. So the journey of life begins from cell. Cell is the structural and fundamental unit of life. This is formed when organelles and cytoplasm come together, enclosed by a plasma membrane. Every organism on earth, whether a bacteria or the giant organisms, are made up of cell, and their structures are made by organelles and cytoplasm, which is enclosed within the plasma membrane. Nucleus is the structure where genetic information is stored. Mitochondria is where energy is produced, and the plasma membrane, which encloses every organelle and cytoplasm and regulate the conditions inside the cell. These structures come together to form a first level where life itself emerges. It is a microscopic level. When these cells come together to form a tissue, so we can say that a group of similar cells specialized to form a specific function form a tissue. For example, if we see a single cell, it cannot provide movement, it cannot provide protection. But when these many cells come together and form a tissue, it can be helped. As we can talk in epithelial cell, it can form a protective layer, and in case of muscle tissue, it can form a movement. So the property it have gained is a single cell can not only protect its own interior, a tissue act as a coordinated physical barrier for larger structures. And in the same way, when these tissue combine, they form an organ. So by definition, a structural unit made of two or more different tissues together join to serve as a major complex function. If we talk about lungs is made up of multiple tissues such as epithelial tissue, connective tissue, muscle tissue, which give rise to lungs. Which can this lung can now function to exchange the volume of air, and form these organs work in a coordinated way. So when these organs come together, they form an organ system, and by definition it is a group of functionally related organs that work together in a coordinated manner, form an organ system. For example, respiratory system. Lungs alone cannot control the respiration of our organism, so it needs nose, pharynx, larynx, trachea and lungs to ultimately uh, make the respiratory system functional. So the property it have emerged is that to support the organism in the uh, fun- support the function of an organism. So when these organ systems such as respiratory system, digestive system, circulatory system come together, it form an organism. And an organism is an individual which have functional integration of all lower level components and organ system. For example, when we see lion, it have respiratory system, digestive system, nervous system and cardiovascular system. And the organism cannot survive alone, because organism actively hunt, it needs to adapt to the environment. So it need to stay in a group of organism. So when same species live together in a specific area, it is called population. And here we can see many lions stay together, so this we call it as a population of lion, which is known as pride of lions. So now many when the same lion come stay with many other organism, here as we can see is with zebra, other plants, other species, it is forming a community. So by definition, community is a collection of different interacting species staying in a defined area. So the community forms a food web which gives predation to the other organisms, and with a mutual relationship, and balances the ecosystem. So now when multiple community interact with physical environments such as air, water, sunlight, it forms an ecosystem. As for example, it is the savanna ecosystem. So here what happens is when the infinite recycle between the living and non-living things uh, come together to form the ecosystem. So when multiple ecosystem come together, it forms a biosphere. So biosphere can be formed by oceans, multiple ecosystems such as oceans, mountains, forests, etc. So it is, here we can say the earth. So the property it have is that it have regulated atmosphere temperature and survivability conditions of all the organism. So here we can summarize is that the cell is the smallest unit of life, maintaining homeostasis. Tissue which are formed by group of similar cells. Organ, multiple tissues form come together for a complex function. Organ system is that the multiple organs come together to perform a major physiological function. Organism is integration of all the organ systems. And when we talk about the outer world, its population when the group of organism of same species come in a specific area. And community is interacting populations in an area. Ecosystem is when all these community interact with physical environments such as air, water, to stay in the area. And biosphere is all the ecosystem combined to form a biosphere.